Hello everybody, welcome in, happy Wednesday, you made it, you're at Trackalicious, and we go into the final two rounds of the Wednesday Multiclass Championship in ACC for the spring season. I am Kuja Terekov in the booth tonight, and we are doing a fun little thing with Tyler Morgan. He's going to be driving out on track, and we are going to be pulling him in for some interviews during the pit stops, and we will see how that goes. So it should be a lot of fun. He's going to be out on track partaking in the GT4s, and they are out on the track for the qualifying session. So let's head down to the Red Bull Ring and take a look at the action. And here is Tyler Morgan going around. It's not coming up. There we go. Cheers for the hydrates. Welcome in, everybody. 20 minutes on the clock. The first 10 are for the GT4s. Tyler Morgan being one of the plentiful we have out on the grid today. The rookies were here on Monday in the GT4s. Today we have the multi-class with the GT3s. And the GT4s here tonight. Justin Beachley behind one of the McLarens. I believe that's Ty Chin in the 54. Oh no, that's the number 60. That's Nathan Fox. Just ahead of Justin Beachley. They're clearing up a little bit of space before they go out for their first push laps. Might not be the most representative laps with the GT4s not having any tire blankets. It's going to take them a lap or two to get those tires up to temperature and pressure, so we'll just have to wait and see exactly what sort. Oh my goodness. What was I saying? Lost track of thoughts there. And that's super exciting, Eric. A GT4 registered for the track day at Mid-Ohio. So that's going to be super fun to see. So Tyler, been giving a curse from Professor Chronotis. And meanwhile, protecting himself as well. So Tyler Morgan here. It was said in the chat that he's limited to only one valid lap for the entire race tonight. And so we'll see if he can make that valid lap stick in the qualifying session. He is the first car out on track that will set a valid lap. What's the GT4 that's registered? You know which model and make it is? And there is the one and only valid lap from Tyler Morgan on offer tonight. A 138.312. Now Jacobs goes to provisional pole, 4/10 ahead, as Justin Beachley now sets the provisional time to beat, and immediately Ty Chin improves that benchmark by about a 1/10 of a second. A 136.755 from the number 54 McLaren. Now that'll be super fun to see what that GT4 can do in terms of like grip, how much more grip and braking performance it has than the rest of the regular old street cars that are going to be there. Oh, and Giancarlo Bottini goes spinning out of turn 3, excuse me, in the 57 Firebrand. There's Niall Jacobs in his 47 Camaro going off the track as well. That's not a bad lineup at all for a track day. Some old NASCARs, some modern GT4 machinery. Nathan Fox dipping a wheel into the gravel. Unfortunately, that will invalidate his lap. And at Mid-Ohio too, that'll be super fun. I'm guessing IMSA's got an event coming up there that the GT4 wants to get a little bit of testing done. The 136.755 remains the time to chase for the GT4s. Alex Freeman occupying third place on the grid at the moment, about 4/10 behind provisional pole sitter Ty Chin, and about 3/10 behind the driver in front of him, Justin Beachley, driving that number 18 Kermit the Frog AMG, and Alex Freeman here in his typical black and yellow AF Sport livery, coming up to the line here. Perhaps not as aggressive as he would have liked through that final corner, but nonetheless gaining a little bit of time on his personal best, gained about 1/10 of a second. So getting closer to Justin Beachley's time. And Justin Beachley now coming around to complete another lap here in his AMG. Oh, and he drifts wide out of turn 9, invalidating his efforts there. So he'll have to go around once more. Still a good amount of time left on the clock to complete a couple of laps here for Justin Beachley and the rest of the grid. As Niall Jacobs, after having a moment on his last lap, comes up to the line and improves his personal best by about 1/10 of a second. Needs about 8/10 to get up to Alex Freeman in third, and has about a 4/10 of a second gap to Tyler Morgan behind him in fifth. And then in sixth, you've got Giancarlo Bottini, Nathan Fox in seventh, and Dr. Porkchop in eighth place. Short but sweet GT4 grid tonight. As we will have quite a good number of GT3s out for the last 10 minutes of the qualifying session. Porkchop improves his personal best and gets ahead of Nathan Fox to line up in 7th position on the grid. As Tyler Morgan comes around, able to improve his time and makes up that 4/10 of a second gap he had to Niall Jacobs, and he is up by 0.04 of a second over the Camaro in 5th. Nathan Fox improves his time and gets ahead of Bottini and Dr. Porkchop up to the 3rd row in 6th. As Nathan Fox goes back to the pit lane in his number 60 McLaren, that will be the session done for him. So 6th will be the best that he can start, unless there are improvements behind from Bottini or Porkchop. Alex Freeman currently sitting in 3rd. Still needs about 2.5 to get to Justin Beachley. Can he gain the time? Gains another 0.5 or so on his personal best. Now about a 2/10 of a gap, 2/10 of a second gap to get to Justin Beachley and potentially line up on that front row. And as Tyler Morgan comes around to finish his 5th lap of the qualifying. Most of them valid. So far, so good in the valid lap department, as the 72 comes up to the line and improves his personal best by another 10th or so. Kyle Jacobs back in the pits from 5th, so only Bottini could get ahead of Tyler Morgan if there's a big improvement from the Ginetta, and there is an improvement from Tai Chin, and gets a 136.7 even, and returns back to the pits from provisional pole. And here is the Firebrand Ginetta drifting out of the final corner, losing a little bit of time on the exit, and coming up to the line, and unable to improve his personal best. So that will be the session done, as the 10 minutes, or as we pass the 10-minute mark, the GT3s begin rolling out on track. Alex Freeman, no improvements for him at the end there, so he will just practice a pit stop and go in to pit lane to end his session. So it's all eyes on Tyler Morgan and Justin Beachley, finishing out their session here. Tyler Morgan with a 7/10 gap to get up to 3rd place position. Alex Freeman, but still good to get the laps in nonetheless, and invalidating it at the final corner, drifting just a touch wide. So he will be unable to improve on 4th place. And can Justin Beachley get onto the top spot? No, he cannot. No improvements there from the AMG at the end, as the GT3s begin their session as they cross the line to start their first push laps of their 10-minute session. Chronotis leads the field of the number 42 Ferrari out onto the track with now just 8 minutes left in the GT3 session. B4 is a good spot to start. Oh, and cheers, thank you for the hydrates. Much appreciated. So now Chronotis with just the final sector left on his first push lap. The GT3s are able to push pretty much right out of the gates. The tires do have warmers, so they just really need to get them up to a good pressure window. Then they can begin to push. What will be the time that the 42 sets at the top? It's going to be a 129.91 from the 42 Ferrari, and now the rest of the grid beginning to work their way through. Ezzy Thomas in the dog box racing Lamborghini comes out, or comes into the final corner, and now out of the final corner to the line for the first time in his qualifying session. And the Lamborghini gets on the board with a 134.727. Pedernera on the top spot in the number 20 Porsche, clears Chronotis by about 0.6 of a second. Then you got Devin Anthony in 3rd, Reich in 4th. Yatanashi getting pushed down to 6th, with Dom Matroni getting a valid lap on the board and moving up to 3rd place. Brendan Wallace looking to get a valid lap on the board, hasn't done so yet, as the grid goes around for their second flying lap attempts. Bit of a wiggle from Brendan Wallace there, as he will have to pull off to the side of the road and let Dom Matroni go through. Sam Reich in a bit of a sandwich here with Shane Sullivan up ahead of him in the 617, coming up to the line, looking to get a valid lap on the board, and he does just that. Moves up to 7th place. Sam Reich getting very close to the time set by Devin Anthony, just 12 thousandths of a second, separating the McLaren from the Porsche for a little bit of time, and now Devin Anthony improves up to the top row, sits in 2nd place next to the number 20 Porsche to make it an all 911 front row. Into the final 5 minutes we go. Moriko Yatanashi gets an improvement on the board, gets very close to the time set by Samuel Reich, and needs a further 700ths of a second to try and get ahead and get a top 5 position in the number 530. No valid lap on the board just yet for Konstantin Repis in the RSK Racing Team McLaren, but he's looking to change that, coming out of the final corner now and up to the line. Gets up to 10th place ahead of Rally Dutchy by about a 10.5, and then needs a further 2 tenths to get ahead of Hezi Thomas. It's a good sight to see the M6 on the grid with the Nine Tails Racing in the hands of Rally Dutchy. Needs a 10.5 to get inside of that top 10. And gets a lot more than that. Improves the personal best by about 8 tenths of a second. Now needs 3 more tenths to get ahead of Vladislav Knife in 8th place. Sam Zawisa with a big improvement slots his Ferrari up into 3rd, about 3 tenths behind provisional pole sitter, and about 2 tenths ahead of Dom Matroni behind him on the 2nd row. So now Wallace across the line improves up to 12th. And those times are super tight between Hezi Thomas, Wallace, and Paisa. About a 10.5 separating those 3 drivers. Pedernera with the top time and looking to improve that benchmark even further, and does just that. Improves the personal best by about half a second, putting 7 tenths between himself and Devin Anthony in the 664 Porsche. Jay Paisa in that tight battle for a spot inside the top 10. What can the McLaren do on this lap? Gets into that top 10 exactly ahead of Rally Dutchy now by about 2 tenths of a second. Vladislav Knife trying to improve now out of the final corner. Currently sitting in 9th, needs about 4 tenths of a second to get ahead of Shane Sullivan, and he finds the time to line up in 8th place. Devin Anthony and Dom Matroni back in the pits from 2nd and 3rd. So they will not be able to improve on their positions. Just hoping that none of the drivers behind can crack their times. Professor Chronotis looking to improve his position and be the lead Ferrari. Needs about 2 tenths of a second to do just that. And he gains a lot more than that. Gets up to 2nd place overall to line up on the top row next to Pedernera. Hezi Thomas and Jay Paisa to the line. Pretty close to each other in the grid standings. This lap put them closer, or further away. Jay Paisa slowing down as he was coming up to the line. And that will unfortunately, looks like that's going to be the session done for the 135 as Hezzy Thomas gets a personal best on the board. 200 separate him and Brennan Wallace behind. And so the time ticks to 0. Checkered flag is waving on the session. So the GT3's up to the line for their final laps. Can Chronotis make up 7/10 of a second to get ahead of Pedernera? Take away that top step. Away, no. Chronotis diving back into the pit lane. Now Shane Sullivan back in action. The 617 racing coming up to the line. Needs less than 1/10 of a second and gets a lot more than that. Moves up to 8th to split between the two McLarens of Reich and Knife. So now what can the 52 Ferrari of Sam Zawisa do on the final attempt? With Hezzy Thomas up to the line, can't find a personal best on his flying lap attempt. Where will this lap put Sam Zawisa? Comes up to the line and takes the top Ferrari spot away from Professor Chronotis. So he will line up on the front row alongside Pedernera, who will take provisional pole for round number 7. So we've got some cloudy conditions here. Will this develop into some rain later on? That will certainly be a mix-up for the drivers to try and figure out exactly how to handle that and exactly when the rain might come, with 2 mandatory pit stops as well to consider during the race. It will be quite an interesting one to try and sort out. Love seeing some mixed conditions. So let's start with the grid walk. We begin with the GT4 field. On provisional pole, we've got Tai Chin carrying the momentum from the rookies into the Wednesday multi-class, starting on pole in the number 54 Logitech McLaren G Challenge. Next to them on the front row, we've got Justin Beachley in the Beach GT, Kermit the Frog livery, the number 18 AMG, looking to get yet another podium to his name. Alex Freeman behind him to start an all Aston Martin second row. He is in the AF Sport number 22 in the all-familiar black and yellow livery. Can he sneak up ahead of Justin Beachley or a race win? Or pole position sitter, I should say, Tai Chin. Next to him in fourth is Tyler Morgan in the Morgan Motorsports GT4. The number 72 starts from the back of the second row. In the top 5, you got Niall Jacobs in the Susquehanna Racing Team number 47 Camaro. Next to him is Nathan Fox in the race trim number 60 McLaren. The Lone Firebrand Ginetta on the grid tonight belongs to Giancarlo Bottini. He will start from 7th place in the GT4 class. Then you got Dr. Porkchop in the Chop Shop Racing in the 71 Aston Martin, rounding out the GT4 grid. And on to the GT3s. On pole is Andreset Pedernera in the number 20 La Cicloneta Porsche, starting from pole position and had a pretty healthy gap to the driver sitting next to him on the front row. That's Sam Zawisa in the York Pearl number 52 Ferrari, able to snag that second place position away right at the end of the qualifying session. Next is Professor Chronotis in the number 42 Ferrari. He will start from 3rd place. Next is Devin Anthony in the 664 Noobs Are Us Porsche. Behind him, rounding out the top 5, is Dom Matroni in the Matroni CRT number 5 BMW. In 6th is Moriko Yatanashi in the Eastsiders GT3 530 Nissan, with Samuel Reich behind in 7th in the number 14 Raptor Racing Multi-McLaren. Back for some racing, it's Shane Sullivan in the 617 Trackalicious 617 BMW. Behind him in 9th is Vladislav Knife in the RSK Racing Team Pro 173 McLaren. He starts in all McLaren 5th row as Jay Paisa rounds out the top 10 in the 135 JP with Samantha Tan Racing. Behind him, Rally Dutchy in the BMW M6 in the Nine Tails Racing 621. Then Hezzy Thomas in 12th in the number 59 Dog Box Racing. He's gotten a lot of top 10 finishes in the rookies in the GT4s. What can he do tonight in the GT3s? Next is Brandon Wallace in the number 30 Porsche. The Artec Racing Team livery starts from 13th place. From 14th is Konstantin Repis in the RSK Racing Team Pro McLaren. He is in the number 28. Last but not least, Spady Budd. Unable to get a lap during the qualifying session, so the 21 will start from the back of the grid. And he will be the final and 15th car in the GT3 class to make up the grid tonight as they come to the end of Sector 2. On their formation lap. 75 minutes of racing lies ahead of us. Cheers for the hydrate, Mr. Alex Freeman, starting from 3rd place in this one tonight. Tyler Morgan right behind him. As the grid gets ready to go racing, they line up side by side in zipper formation, going down the hill through turn 9 and 10, getting themselves their tires, their brakes ready to go racing here. As the front row escapes out of the final corner, the rest of the grid a bit far behind. We'll see exactly what happens here. All right, looks like everybody's back in position. Maybe just a little bit of a visual glitch there for some of the drivers. But nonetheless, the green flag waves. Time starts to tick down. Devin Anthony with a pretty good run, but just can't find any room to get inside of the Ferraris ahead of him. Chronotis runs a little bit wide, and further back, Tai Chin goes well wide in the GT4s as Niall Jacobs is able to move up into 3rd place with Hezzy Thomas and Spady Budd working their way through in the GT3s. Alex Freeman down a place from where he started. Niall Jacobs trying to sneak on through the outside, or the middle of the two cars, excuse me. There's further contact behind. Alex Freeman getting nudged a little bit by Tyler Morgan, and a big improvement from Giancarlo Bottini as he moves up to 4th place after starting from 7th. The top 5 remain unchanged. Shane Sullivan up a couple places. He is now up to 6th in the 617 BMW. Sam Zawisa hanging pretty close to the back of Pedernera there. You would have thought after how far away after that qualifying session was the Porsche, he'd just run away with it. But after that first lap, Sam Zawisa still staying pretty close to the back of the lead Porsche in the GT3 class. Dom Matroni doing the same to Devin Anthony, staying right on his tail in the Porsche. as that is one of the RSK McLarens going a little bit wide out of turn one. Now Jacobs all over the back of Justin Beachley, heading up the hill into turn three. He thought about the late move on the last lap, as there is a nudge from the Ginetta of Giancarlo Bottini. That Ginetta just able to corner so much quicker than the Camaro, carrying a lot more speed. But now might fall victim to Alex Freeman behind, pushing hard, but it's Giancarlo Bottini who goes down the inside, late move, but can't hold it on the brakes, goes a touch deep and into the gravel, slowing down the momentum of the Ginetta as they head down the hill into turn six, thinking about the inside move. Not a lot of overlap there. Alex Freeman able to carry the momentum down the hill as Dr. Porkchop and Nathan Fox both run a touch wide as they head down into the final sector. Oh, yellow flag up ahead. Konstantin Repis going slowly in between turn 9 and 10. Able to get back up to racing speed. And look at that gaggle of cars behind Giancarlo Bottini. Nathan Fox wide out of the final corner in the McLaren, trying to push as hard as he can. And as Bottini going to the inside to cut off the slipstream as much as possible from the fast-charging Aston Martins behind. A bit of an overlap for Dr. Porkchop. He runs a touch wide. Tyler Morgan able to take that long way around as well, trying to follow through as well. Just gets ahead of the Ginetta, tucks it in front. Nathan Fox gets ahead as well, and unfortunately, 3 positions lost there for Giancarlo Bottini. Contact between Tyler Morgan and Nathan Fox. The McLaren goes spinning, but not fully out of it, still able to get back going, as there is a great battle going on here between the GT4s. Moriko Yatanashi side by side with Vladislav Knife. Yatanashi down a couple places from where the Nissan started in 6th, able to get back up to 9th place now. Has Brandon Wallace in front, who's made a pretty good start after starting from 13th, getting all the way up to 8th place. Brandon Wallace showing some good early race pace here, getting ahead of Moriko Yatanashi in the early goings, but the Nissan looking to make up those positions and try and get back up to 6th place. A bit of a wiggle on the exit of turn 3 though, but not the end of the world for the Nissan's efforts and trying to chase down Brandon Wallace in front. Oh, and there's contact between Yatanashi and Wallace! Into turn 4, they both go into the gravel. Wallace gets back and going as Yatanashi waits for the rest of the grid to filter on through before getting back going. Getting ahead of Hazzy Thomas for 13th place for the Nissan. Spady Butt also with a great start. After starting from the actual back of the grid behind all the GT4s, already into a top 10 position and looking to get ahead of Rally Dutchy. The over-under overlap opening up here for the Nissan. Spady Butt is going to have the inside line as they go up the hill through turn 2 and into the braking zone of turn 3. Rally Dutchy trying to keep the Nissan to the inside as much as possible and gets ahead and defends 9th place. as there is some chaos emerging in the GT3 field here, just behind that battle we were watching. Brandon Wallace trying to go the long way around, and into the gravel goes the Porsche after he was ahead of Jay Paisa momentarily. The 135 McLaren able to get back through. Oh, and a drift from Brandon Wallace! 360! Spinning back onto the track. Fortunately for him, has a good gap between, oh goodness, the 28 of Repus and the GT4 field. Now just hoping to get back and going here. I'm not sure if there was contact there or not between Yatanashi and the Porsche of Wallace there. It certainly didn't look like it. It looked like the Porsche just began to spin on its own. As Jay Paisa, now under pressure from the Nissan of Yatanashi, wants that inside line for the braking zone of turn 3. And has the inside line, has the overlap, a little bit heavy over the sausage curbs on the inside, slowing down the momentum of that East Siders Nissan, and Jay Paisa able to stay ahead. Just up the road for 9th and 10th, Spady Bud trying to get around Vladislav Knife for 9th after Rally Dutchy able to get through the McLaren, and there is a big snap from the McLaren of Vladislav Knife to go into the barrier on the exit of turn 8. That was a rather uncharacteristic moment there. Tyler Morgan trying to get ahead of Dr. Porkchop for a spot in the top 5 in the GT4s. Tai Chin leads the way in the GT4 category, has about a 4-second gap over Justin Beachley in 2nd place. Then it's 1.7 seconds to Niall Jacobs, rounding out the podium positions. Alex Freeman takes 4th. He's right on the tail of the Camaro, just ahead of these two Aston Martins. Dr. Porkchop in 5th in the 71, and then Tyler Morgan in the 72, occupying 6th place. John DeCarlo Bottini behind as well, not too far off in the distance. And unfortunately losing the McLaren of Nathan Fox from the GT4 class. Shane Sullivan comes in for an early pit stop here. Being just the second driver to visit the pits. Brandon Wallace completing a stop already after suffering from a couple of spins. I'm sure those tires were not in the best condition to keep on going. So into the pits, getting those swapped, and back out on track goes the Porsche. Shane Sullivan just looking like this was a scheduled early stop for the 617. As the 617 gets dropped and is now rolling out of the pit lane. Unfortunately for him, he got behind the GT4 class, so that might just slow down his chances a touch. of trying to get a good undercut strategy from the grid up ahead. Speedy Bud down the inside of turn 1. Rally Dutchy trying to hold on to the position the long way around. We've seen him do it once, and they are going argy-bargy once again down the straight between turn 1 and turn 3. Oh my goodness. It is going the whole length of the way, and the Nissan tucks back in to the slipstream to try and get a better exit out of turn 3, but runs wide. And unfortunately, that will not help Spady Bud in his efforts of trying to get the 621 out of that corner. There's been some good overlap, though, between the two, so he just needs to find his way down the inside into the braking zones. And he will try and steal that 7th place position away from the 621 M6. Had a pretty good run into turn 1 on the previous lap when we tuned in with this battle. Let's see what happens coming out of the final corner this time. The Nissan right on the back of the BMW takes that inside line early on. And now can the 21 get the move done late on the brakes? BMW swings well wide to try and keep all the speed around the outside. And once again, it's going to be a drag race going into turn 3. Not a lot of side-by-side contact this time. But the BMW with some straight line speed certainly helping it out there, trying to defend the position once again around the outside. But this time the Nissan has much more of an overlap to try and fight for this place, but the 621's not giving it up easy. Tucks into the slipstream. Will Rally Dutchy try and find a move to the inside? A little bit of contact there as the BMW sends it to the inside, but goes a little bit deep on the brakes, opens up the inside, but Spady Bud, a little bit too much curve on the apex there. Can't get the power down. He needs to hold on to the place, and once again, the 621 is able to hold on to 7th. Dutchy defends the inside of 9. Nissan goes wide between 9 and 10. And the long way around 10 is the way to go for the Nissan now. Can't defend the inside. Or can he? The BMW decided not to go for that late lunge. Oh, and Moriko Yatsudashi very late on the brakes, able to keep it out of the wall in the background there in the orange Nissan. As Spady Bud finally able to get the move done a long way around the final corner, and no room given to the inside of turn 1. But the 621 quick in a straight line. Certainly going to try to stick as close as possible. That battling gaggle of cars. Justin Beachley and Alex Freeman both enter the pit lane. 18 ahead of the 22 on track before they entered. We'll have to take a look at their strategies. There is a 25-second mandatory refueling time, and then it is up to the drivers whether they want to add an additional 5 seconds to that time and take on a fresh set of tires. With We've seen all sorts of strategies all season long. Come in for the early stop, get new tires on, try and go as long as possible. We've seen drivers take their pit stops on consecutive laps. As now we have our first bit of overlap between the GT3s and the GT4s. Cheers, thank you for the hydrate. Always needed when there's so much action happening in both of the classes. And now the pit stop certainly coming into play here. Alex Freeman a lot closer to the back of Justin Beachley than he was before the pit stops, that's for sure. There was also a car separating them, with Niall Jacobs occupying that third place position, so it'll be very interesting to see where the Camaro comes out in all this. That's Devin Anthony working his way through Niall Jacobs. As Devin Anthony is in pursuit of Professor Chronotis and that final podium position. Less than a second separating the Ferrari and the Porsche. But with some GT4 overlap, looking like Chronotis able to build that gap through the second sector. And it gives himself a bit more breathing room holding on to that final podium position. And Rally Duchy, after holding off one Nissan, has another challenger right behind him in the form of Moriko Yatanashi, the 530, already challenging into turn number 8. And perhaps not quite the overlap they were looking for there, but the BMW hits the sausage curb on the apex, pushes the M6 wide, and Moriko Yatanashi able to slip on through. So the 530 now up to 8th place with a 4.3 second gap ahead to Spady Bud in the sister number 21 Nissan. The two Astons of Dr. Porkchop and Tyler Morgan side by side. Samuel Reich splitting the two as he gets through momentarily. Tyler Morgan had the position over Dr. Porkchop, thinking about the late move, but tucks back in behind the 71. And it looks like Dr. Porkchop peeling into the pit lane here. Almost contact there between the overlapping GT3s and GT4s. As Porkchop goes into the pits. And that is the Nissan of Spady Bud working his way through Tyler Morgan. Tyler Morgan just hoping to put in some good laps here to get the overcut done on the 71, who's just exiting out of the pits now. Pedernero, after completing 15 laps, out in the lead of the GT3s by about 4.2 seconds over Sam Zawisa in second place in the 52 Ferrari. Then Professor Chronotis in third, with Devin Anthony staying close to his tail in the 664 Porsche. Dom Matroni rounds out the top 5 in the number 5 BMW. Then you got Sam Raikkonen 6th, Spady Budd, in 7th, Yatanashi in 8th, Rally Duchy 9th, Vladislav Knife rounds out the top 10. Hezi Thomas in 11th, Paisa 12th, Repis 13th, Shane Sullivan 14th. After having already completed a pit stop, he's looking to get the early undercut done. Then you got Brandon Wallace also with an early pit stop as well in the number 30 Porsche. As he being given some energy here, as the 59 momentarily will have a spot in the top 10 as Yatanashi is in the pits in the 530 Nissan. Thomas with a 2.7 second gap to make up to Vladislav Knife in 9th, and then Jay Paisa closing in with a 1.4 second gap behind. Tajin in the pits from the lead of the GT4s has a 20-second gap over Tyler Morgan, who will inherit the race lead. Crossing through the final corner and not diving down the pit lane. Tyler Morgan out in the lead, yet to stop once. Giancarlo Bottini behind with a similar strategy as the McLaren goes bouncing over the apex, slowing down the Aston Martin, and that'll really bring Giancarlo Bottini into play. Tyler Morgan defends the inside, with Bottini having a grip advantage in the Ginetta. And with that grip advantage, able to carry the speed he needs. And there are two separate battles going into turn 4 here. Hezi Thomas having to go the long way around, able to take evasive action as Spady Budd gets a stop go for speeding in the pit lane. As the two GT3s work their way through the two battling GT4s, Tyler Morgan ends up back in front of Bottini. Unfortunately, that stop go 30 for Spady Budd had some good progress making his way up the field after starting from the back. Fortunately, we'll have to take an extra pit stop here. As Jay Paisa down the inside of turn 3 gets the position on the Lamborghini. Hezi Thomas drops back a place, but now down the straights looking to try and stay as close as possible using that slipstream. Tyler Morgan and Giancarlo Bottini battling behind. Very tight gap on the pit exit here between Tai Chin and Justin Beachley. Beachley able to put some breathing room between himself and Alex Freeman. Now 5 seconds separates the AMG from the Aston Martin, and there is a big group of GT3s trying to work their way through the field here. That's Shane Sullivan first in the BMW, Spady Budd next in the Nissan, then Dom Matroni in the number 5. Yet to stop in this race. So Beachley will hope to try and follow the traffic as best as possible in his efforts of getting close to Tai Chin. Paisa, Reich, and Zawisa in the pit lane. As Rally Dutchy tries to go through one of the cars, getting ahead of Beachley momentarily. But Beachley able to carry the momentum the long way around. Unfortunately for him, was right on the back of the McLaren before the final few corners. Getting slowed down just a touch here. Contact between Tai Chin and Rally Dutchy opens up the door for Justin Beachley to take the race lead away. The 621 trying to go down the inside of turn 3, hit the curbs a little too heavily, and now Tai Chin fighting through turn 4. Gets the inside line, gets the move done late on the brakes, and retakes the race lead. Now Rally Dutchy the long way around of turn 9 and 10. Getting ahead of both GT4s there in one corner. And now the battle will really pick up here between Justin Beachley and Tai Chin. Morgan and Bottini still yet to stop in the GT4 class. Getting passed there by a couple of GT3s. That's Repis in the number 28, I do believe. And one of the RSK McLarens with Spady Budd behind. As we go down the start-finish straight, Tyler Morgan trying to cover off the inside as much as possible, going down that marbled part of the track and able to hold off the Ginetta through the corners. Pernotis leads in the GT3s from Devin Anthony, then Dom Matroni in third. The top three yet to complete a stop in this one. Pedernera leads the GT3s of those who have stopped. Then you've got Zawisa, Yatanashi, Shane Sullivan in 7th, Reich in 8th, Dutchy in 9th. A bit of a mistake from Tyler Morgan there. Through turn 6, down into 7 they go. Bottini down the inside. Tyler Morgan trying to fight through, but for the moment, it's the Ginetta that has the position. Into the fast final few corners of the track. Can the Ginetta hold on with the nimble chassis? It looks like for the moment, once again, he's able to get in front and out of the final corner, emerges up ahead and in the race lead. Brendan Wallace in the pits to complete his final pit stop of the night, before some drivers have even completed one. Devin Anthony in the pits from 2nd place on the track, as Bottini able to stay ahead in the straight line department. As Yatanashi and Chronotis try to work their way through this battle of cars here. Tyler Morgan and Bottini opening up the inside, allowing the pair of them to slip on through, and then Yatanashi under blue flags from Professor Chronotis, also just kindly getting out of the way of the Ferrari there. And as Tyler Morgan dives into the pits, this will give us an opportunity to chat with the man behind the wheel himself. So into the pits he goes, and we'll pull him in for a quick chat. How's it going, Tyler? It's looking pretty stressful right now.
Oh my goodness, I have never... It's so much different than what it is in the booth. I have to add an extra 4 seconds to repair the bodywork. But other than that, I think it's gone pretty well so far.
Oh yeah, good battle there with Bottini, and then before all of the whole pit stop cycles, you and Dr. Porkchop were going toe-to-toe at the beginning there. We'll see exactly where you come out in this pit stop.
I think he's gonna come out ahead of me. He has to. He's definitely undercut me for sure.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. What's the strategy looking like going forward? Are you taking tires now? Not taking tires?
Yeah, tires now, just so not later.
That's fair. Take the advantage now. Get a good little break while you can. Right about at the halfway mark. Was this kind of the plan from the get-go? Playing on the dry weather?
I would have liked to go a little bit longer, but I was starting to lose time fighting with Bottini, and I want to undercut him at least. So I've lost position to Porkchop here, but I feel like I have the pace to catch up to him at least. You saw that in the first half. You
got the new tires on. Good luck to you in this stint. We'll chat again on your next pit stop.
Yeah, probably be soon.
Have fun. Good luck out there. So Tyler Morgan back out on track. Like you heard there, had to repair a bit of damage, so a slightly lengthier pit stop than Dr. Porkchop out in front of him, who might still be running the same tires he's had since the beginning of the race in the number 71, a 5.5 second gap. So without that damage, it's just a 1 second gap between the two Astons that were right next to each other on track before all of the pit stops were said and done. Samuel Reich and Shane Sullivan duking it out for position here. Shane Sullivan with the inside. Samuel Reich a little bit deep into turn 3. He's going to try and get the grip down and get the power down better than the BMW. They're still going to run side by side down the hill into turn 4. A much trickier braking zone to try and fight. as the grip just keeps breaking away and away from the driver. So easy to run wide into the gravel, and with the McLaren having the outside, he doesn't want to risk that. Shane Sullivan will take the place back. Into turn 6, the McLaren threw a little bit of a dummy move there to try and maybe throw Shane Sullivan out of rhythm there, but he is not budging one bit after missing some racing action here at Tracklicious. He is back and in a 7th place position. And as we hit the halfway mark of the race, Professor Chronotis dives into the pits from the lead in the number 42 Ferrari. We'll see where he comes out. Between Zawisa and Devin Anthony, that was where he was before. All the pit stop were said and done right down the inside of turn 1. A bit of contact there as the McLaren already able to get ahead of the BMW. Just wasn't expecting him there. Got the power down. And now we'll have to fight and get that position back from the McLaren. Bit of a gap opening up here between the McLaren and the BMW of Shane Sullivan. You will have to try and make that gap back up and try and fight for that position once again. Alex Freeman into the pits for his final pit stop of the night. Bottini, after the pits, comes out in front of Tyler Morgan. So he's got a 2.6 second gap to Dr. Porkchop to try and make up. So Alex Freeman done and dusted out of the pits. And Tyler Morgan's not too far behind the Ginetta either. Just 1.5 seconds separates the Aston from the Ginetta. I should say the Aston behind him, Tyler Morgan, and he's back in the pits already. And how about that? He's ready for another chat. Let's bring him in. Well, you predicted it pretty well. Back in the pits pretty much right away.
wasn't gonna take long, I told you that.
Yeah, so now just so now you really know your position. About 1.5 seconds back of Bottini, 4 seconds behind Dr. Porkchop. Porkchop on the older tires. And now
I saw I had a whole bunch of GT4 traffic coming behind me, so I'm like, you know what? This is now better time more than ever. Get away from that traffic. Try and find that gap between Porkchop and whoever 21 is. I think that's Speedy Bud. And just fit in there and just drive. Get good consistent laps and just... It's all me now. If I lose this position, it's all just me.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Refueled, dropped, ready to go. Out of the pits. Good luck in the final 33 minutes here, Tyler. Hopefully we'll chat with you after.
Doubtful, but we'll see.
We will see indeed. Good luck the rest of the way. So out of the pits he goes. Final pit stop done for the 72 as he comes out ahead of Professor Chronotis. That's basically the only car behind him down the straightaway. So into a pretty decent gap here for Tyler Morgan to try and use that race pace and get those consistent laps in like you heard him say. With Shane Sullivan in the pits with Tyler Morgan momentarily as the 617 gets serviced and back out on track, completing both of the mandatory pit stops of the night and comes out in 11th place. And still with all of the cars ahead of him yet to complete their second stop of the night, Dom Matroni in for his first after a good bit of running. More than halfway into this one. About 43 minutes of running on those tires for Dom Matroni as the number 5 BMW goes into the pit lane. Dr. Porkchop is there too, so we'll see where the 72 the 72 Aston of Tyler Morgan will come out as Dr. Porkchop is sitting in the pit lane. And there they both get rolling at just about the same time. There's the purple Aston of Tyler Morgan going through. So a good call from Tyler Morgan to filter into a gap, and he has a healthy advantage over Dr. Porkchop. Gap nearly 8 seconds between the 72, who's now ahead of the 71. Devin Anthony getting his final pit stop completed in the Porsche. He was running in 4th. Then we go into the final 30 minutes. Vladislav Knife on the back of Hezzy Thomas. On different strategies here, the McLaren already completing both of the mandatory stops. Hezzy Thomas was still one to complete. Relatively short lap at the Red Bull Ring means the drivers are going to rack up quite a lot of laps. Their Knife to the inside of the Lamborghini and gets the McLaren ahead into 13th. Knife with a 5-second gap to make up to Jay Paisa in 11th place. Both of those McLarens are on the same strategy, having completed both pit stops in the race. And there is the blue McLaren just out of shot at the front of the straightaway here. About half the grid remains to complete the mandatory pit stop. No rain in this one tonight. The conditions improving to sunnier throughout the race, and now with less than 30 minutes left, the forecast not predicting any sort of precipitation. So it'll be dry running all the way to the end. Justin Beachley in the pits from second place in the GT4s. Get a pretty good gap behind to Niall Jacobs. And Tai Chin also with a healthy gap in the lead of the GT4 class. But out of the pits, we saw Justin Beachley able to close that gap right on in. And welcome back to the podium, Gopher. Thank you for the continued support. And I agree, there does need to be more Audis in this race. We only got one V10 out there, and it's Hezzy Thomas in the number 59 Lamborghini. Oh, what a bit of contact there between him and Devin Anthony, going down the straight between turn 3 and 4. As there is a big group of cars there going through. The Ginetta of Bottini leads them, as Devin Anthony, Hezzy Thomas, Rally Dutchy, and Sam Zawisa all trying their best to get through unscathed. A bit of scratching on the front of the Lamborghini of Hezzy Thomas as Zawisa goes down the inside. There is the McLaren rolling out of the pits for the final time. And Justin Beachley just getting to the final corner. Tai Chin should be able to hold on to the lead of this one. Professor Chronotis in third. He has started from third. The top three remained unchanged in the GT3 class, with Pedernera leading the way after 32 laps of running. Zawisa next in second, then Chronotis here in the number 42 Ferrari. Dom Matroni in fourth, Yatanashi fifth, Samuel Reich in sixth, Devin Anthony seventh. He has completed all of the mandatory pit stops. Rally Dutchy eighth, Spady Budd in the pits in ninth. Then you got Shane Sullivan rounding out the top 10. You got the McLarens of Paisa and Knife 11th and 12th. Then you got Hezzy Thomas in 13th, and the McLaren of Konstantin Repis in 14th place. The top two in the GT4 still yet to stop for the final time. It's Niall Jacobs out in front in the number 47 Camaro, going side by side with the GT3 race leader, heading up into turn 3. Then you got Bottini in second in the number 57 Ginetta. Tai Chin in the lead of those who have completed all of their stops, ahead of Justin Beachley by about 8 seconds. Then you got Alex Freeman and Tyler Morgan and Dr. Porkchop in the trio of Astons. Been a good race, lots of varying strategies opening up. Lots of room here in the middle part of the race to set up an epic finale once all of the drivers completing those mandatory pit stops. So Niall Jacobs in the pits, Pedernera in the pits. Hezzy Thomas in the pits. Rally Dutchy in the pits. Active pit lane tonight. And yeah, Hezzy, that's like always a good place to start. The GT3 is certainly much more of a handful to get used to than the GT4s. But soon that wheel will come, Mr. Hezzy Thomas. That will be a lot of fun. Trying to get used to a completely new way of driving in the sim. Oh, and Rally Dutchy getting a stop-go for speeding in the pits. The 621 came out in 7th place. Or 9th place, excuse me, but will now have to serve a stop-go 30. So after the second round of pit stops, Alex Freeman ahead of Niall Jacobs to take the final podium place away from the Camaro. So a 2.7 second gap between the Camaro and the Aston for that final step of the podium. 20 minutes to go for Niall Jacobs to try and make that gap up. Shane Sullivan getting through the pair of GT4s here. As he's got Alex Freeman next in the Aston GT4. Oh, and a bit of a late move, kind of a half-hearted attempt down the inside there. Alex Freeman wasn't sure whether to leave space there or not. But nonetheless, both drivers remain unscathed and pointing in the correct direction. Rally Dutchy in the pits to clear that penalty. And comes out in 12th place. Unfortunately, a handful of positions lost there for the 621. But as Mike Noss would say, practice your pit stops. Very important in a race like this where there are 2 mandatory stops as well. So that can certainly cost you a few seconds throughout the race, just absolutely nailing those pit stops. It seems like that has worked in the favor of Alex Freeman, able to get back through ahead of Niall Jacobs. He was running in 4th for a majority of this race. And into the final quarter of the race we go, he is able to eke that podium position away from Niall Jacobs. 21 cars still running. We lost the GT3 and a GT4 runner in this one, unfortunately. Still, good chunk of the grid continuing to go around in this one. Brandon Wallace out in the Porsche, and Nathan Fox out in the McLaren. But I'm sure they will be back and ready for more racing next week, where we will head into the season finale. The mystery track will be revealed after the race tonight with a marble race, so stick around for that, as we will see where we will head to in the season finale next week. The top three in the GT3 still yet to stop, and how about that? In 30 minutes, some rain is expected. But that will come after the checkered flag waves. Unfortunate for those that like a little bit of wet running. Just coming a couple of minutes too late. Bottini, the final GT4 in the pits for the final time. Where will he come out in his battle with Tyler Morgan and Dr. Porkchop? As Zawisa comes into the pits from the lead. There's now Jacobs getting through Bottini. Off of the jacks, out of the pit lane, and back up to racing speed. Tyler Morgan going through turn one, and he gets ahead. Runs a little bit wide at turn one, but wants to keep the speed. He wants the position, and he got it. He's ahead of the Ginetta. The Matroni joins Zawisa in the pits. So that leaves Professor Chronotis, the last driver, on track, yet to serve that mandatory pit stop. 15 minutes still to go. Lots of time for him to serve it. So the gap right around 2 seconds between Bottini and Tyler Morgan, able to close it down to about 1.5 there in the second sector, as Professor Chronotis gets through down the inside of the Firebrand Ginetta. So that's the gap that Bottini has to Tyler Morgan to make up. Ladislav Knife and Jay Paisa battling for 9th and 10th. The 135 ahead of the 173. But the gap right around 1 second. Can Knife close in and take that 9th place position away? Oh, and the 621 of Rally Dutchy, yellow flags on the exit of turn 4. Very deep into the gravel too, back into the pits for Rally Dutchy. Gap growing just a touch here between the two McLarens. It's now up to 1.5 seconds. Paisa able to extend it just a little bit. Through that final sector, though, Vladislav Knife able to close right on in on Paisa. Despite being in pretty equal machinery here, they look like they have different setups on the car, able to take advantage in different parts of the track. Into turn 3, Paisa hangs on to 9th. As Bottini unable to close in on Tyler Morgan with that gap, hovering right around that 1.5 to 2 second mark, as now some more GT3 cars work their way through this battle. That's Hezzy Thomas in the number 59. As Morgan slips to the inside, allows the Lambo to go through. It is now a clear shot to his next arrival behind. Carlo Bottini with the later pit stop, trying to close in on Tyler Morgan. But just unable to do so, and there's contact between the two McLarens. Knife and Paisa going into Justin Beachley. An innocent bystander there. The second place sitter in the GT4s, fortunately not going to lose a place to the car behind, but still doesn't want to have that sort of contact to minimize his chances of finishing in second place. Certainly carrying a bit of damage now on the number 18. Very fortunate there to remain mostly unscathed, as the fight beginning to get back to on between Shane Sullivan and Samuel Reich. The gap was about 10 seconds between the two of them, but now in the final 10 minutes, Shane Sullivan able to close in on Samuel Reich, who goes deep into the gravel and easily gives the position to the 617. Cronotis into the pits, the final driver to serve the mandatory pit stops of the night. And there is the blue Ferrari coming out of the pits and gets into third place behind Zuisa and Pedernera out in the lead in the number 20 Porsche. The McLaren's not giving up the position easily, trying to fight Shane Sullivan all the way to the end here. Dr. Porkchop in the 71. Just up ahead of the pair of them as Shane Sullivan gets through. Samuel Reich trying to get his way through the GT4 traffic as quickly as he possibly can to get back onto the tail of the BMW. Right on board with Samuel Reich in his efforts of chasing down the BMW in front as they head up the hill into turn 3. Sullivan just opening up the inside a little bit. And Shane Sullivan able to build a pretty decent gap. Samuel Reich a little bit deep through turn 7. Slowing down his chances of getting back up to the BMW gap, opening up to 2.5 seconds. But the gap between Bottini and Tyler Morgan shrinking, but unfortunately there, Shane Sullivan and Bottini arguing over a piece of road, and Shane Sullivan goes spinning. Samuel Reich will take that position. Drama into the final 5 minutes of this race. Has a bit of multi-class overlap. Sees Bottini dropping back from his battle with Tyler Morgan and allowing Samuel Reich to get ahead of Shane Sullivan. Hello, Heather. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good Wednesday. Thanks for joining us. Into the final 3 minutes of this race we go. Round number 7 coming to a close. There's a couple more laps remaining for our race leader Pedernera in the number 20 Porsche. Taichin leads the GT4 field. Leads Beachley by about 7 seconds. And Alex Freeman in third, Niall Jacobs fourth, Tyler Morgan inside the top 5. He was getting chased down by Giancarlo Bottini, but unfortunately a bit of contact, opening up that gap to about 3 seconds. Then Dr. Porkchop in 7th in the GT4s. There is the Porsche on the final lap, just behind the race leader in the GT4s. So they will finish at a pretty similar time here. I haven't had to say his name a whole lot on this one. Just in a field of his own today. In the number 20 Porsche, Andreset Pedernera, excuse me. Took pole position by a healthy 6.5 margin and has had the lead for the majority of this race. Of course, lost it a couple times during the pit stop cycles, but nonetheless able to come out on top in the GT3 class. La Ciclonetta, the number 20 Porsche, into the final few quarters of this race before Pedernera will see the checkered flag waving and he will take the top step of this race. The number 20 across the line takes the race win. And Taichin, same story. Bit of a battle between him and Justin Beachley earlier on, but Taichin able to emerge out on top. Sam Zawisa, second place in the GT3s. Then you've got Professor Chronotis crossing the line in third place in the GT3s. Justin Beachley and Alex Freeman there flashing his lights, crossing the line. They join Taichin on the GT4 podium as Professor Chronotis crosses the line. Samuel Reich takes the checkered flag in 7th place as Dom Matroni across the line in 4th, able to gain a place from where he started. Devin Anthony takes 5th, Moriko Yatanashi in 6th. Shane Sullivan, 8th place across the line for the 617. As Niall Jacobs takes 4th, Tyler Morgan takes 5th, Giancarlo Bottini in 6th, Dr. Porkchop 7th place in the GT4s. As we just have Moriko Yatanashi left to take the checkered flag in the 530 Nissan. It'll be a 6th place finish for Moriko here tonight. Able to get back into the position that they started after losing some places at the start. Good race, good recovery from the 530 Nissan. And so now that will conclude all of the on-track action tonight as we head back to our studio here. Hopefully we'll be joined by some podium sitters for a quick chat.
Green light, go, go, go.
Of how everybody's race went on this evening. Hello, Tyler. Welcome in.
It is so much different than when you normally are just watching.
Yeah,
it's so
that's
different.
Fair. That's
when
fair.
You're actually fighting. Like, I have never raced Porkchop as hard as I've ever had in that moment.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I am surprised we did not kill each other.
Well, that's just how it goes. I'll let you ask the questions here. We got Chronotis and Justin Beachley and Alex Freeman. Welcome in, gents. How was it running out there with Tyler Morgan tonight?
Not as dangerous as I thought it was going to be.
I did hit.
Yeah, exactly.
I did hit Freeman into turn 3.
Yes, you did.
Thankfully, you didn't die, and thankfully, no one else died. But I did rear-end you.
Oh yes, that did happen.
Just as you threatened to.
Yes, but thankfully, I wanted to do it at a little bit of a harder speed, though. So, but thankfully, no one was worse for wear. I lost position, so I lost my own thing for that. I didn't really see much of Freeman or Beachley that entire race, to be honest. They didn't even pass me for lapped at all. So I don't know how Freeman. I mean, I know how Beachley's race went. He got killed by 2 GT3s.
Yeah, a bit unlucky there at the end. You got close to Tai Chin after the first pit stop, Justin, and then a bit of GT3 traffic just kind of opened that gap a little bit. You think you ever had a chance, if without that traffic, to get a chance at an overtake?
I thought so. I mean, I was about 3 seconds behind and gaining when I got rear-ended by the GT3s there, so it would have been real close. I definitely had, the pace on most laps on Ty going into the last stint, so it would have been real interesting because even after that, after the spin, I started gaining more time on him again. So, what would have been a lot of fun to see that battle at the end, but I'll take second place after all that.
And Chrono in the GT3s, a bit lonely there, I think, for you in third place. Kind of a bit of action at the beginning there with Devin Anthony right behind you. But then after the pit stops, just kind of quiet to the end there.
Yeah, I'd have to look back to see what happened to him. He was giving me a run for my money there early on. Yeah, it's great to get another podium, keep the podium streak alive. If I can't keep the top 2 streak alive, at least I can keep the podium streak alive, and maybe this can be my drop race if I do well enough next week again.
That's always the hope. Tyler, on track next week or in the booth next week? What are you thinking? Depends on the track.
I mean, maybe it's track dependent, but also it might be beer league hockey dependent as well because that season has started up.
Oh, nice. There you go.
So I might take a break after that, dude. That was so much fun. Every time it's Red Bull Ring, I will show. That is a promise. If it's Red Bull Ring, I will come.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, Freeman, what did you do during that race? Because I didn't see you at all.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't have enough to keep up with Justin or Ty. Yeah, I actually kind of slightly screwed up my strategy. I actually didn't take tires at the first stop and immediately started paying for it. But I wanted to at least wait to see what the last 30 minutes were going to do with the weather. So once I saw that it likely wasn't going to rain, that's when, I had enough of a gap to the rest of the field where it's like, I'll just go ahead and get new tires, see the race out.
And Tai Chin is now here. Tai, congratulations on the win. Were you worried at all? Ever?
After the first stop, yeah, because first and second stop. First stop, I thought I had Justin at the pit exit, but just not quite. So I did my best to keep position, and it worked. Stop 2, I didn't take tires, and I was a little bit slow on that stint. Well, but yeah, it was a little bit nervy. I really had to push a lot out of the car, and I did at some time. I went over the track a few times, and I was scared of getting a penalty, and I was scared of just See, I was scared of the GT3s as well, not gonna lie.
Yeah, they come up on you quick. Yeah, there was a bit of a moment there after that first stop. You and Justin were right next to each other on track, and it was looking like it was going to turn into something pretty exciting there. But then, yeah, just kept growing and growing that advantage all the way until the end there.
Yeah.
That's it. That might be it. Have
That
you
is
done the
it.
marble race yet?
Oh yeah, we're ready.
Oh.
We're ready to roll.
Oh, let me see that.
I want to see the marbles. That's all what I can. That's the only thing that interests me now is marbles.
It's just the marbles. Yeah, we'll get that
Sadly,
going.
Tyler, we can't do Red Bull Ring again. There is no Red Bull Ring marble.
Make one.
Oh,
Make one.
oh, we can't have that. That's cheating.
Technically not.
Technically not. Well, if you say so. Thank you
Hold on,
guys. What? Go ahead.
I'm gonna take a prediction here. I think it's going to be. Let's go Paul Ricard for the marble.
All right. Oh yeah. Get some predictions, everybody. What track do you guys either want it to be or think it will be?
I would really prefer it to be Suzuka or Bathurst, but we'll see.
And then
Someone in the
yeah,
chat
if it is the Nürburgring, is it going to be the 24-hour or just the standard GP track? I'm assuming it's just going to be the standard GP track.
Oh, please.
I believe it would be the GP track just because of nobody would pass any GT4s.
Yeah, the overlap would be kind of small there, huh?
Yeah, that would. I don't think it'd be very fun for you, Kuja. So I think it's
Well,
GP.
that all really all
Yeah,
depends on how big all those are. All right. Well, we're set up, we're ready to go. Thank you guys for joining us for a quick chat as always. Good to hear from you. Good luck next week. All right. So, the action everyone has been waiting for. The marble race to determine where the season finale will be for next week's race. So, it is 17 tracks on offer from the list that we have not seen on the calendar this season. And so here are your competitors getting ready to go down the gauntlet. And away they go, funneling down into the start of this one. Who will have the lead into the early goings of this one? And it's Bathurst who had the early momentum going in, and it is Bathurst that is going to have the early lead, escaping the first trap pretty well. Setterton behind. Laguna Seca sneaks on through and down the first drop into the windy bit. They go. Laguna Seca with the lead ahead of Bathurst, then Monza, Setterton, Suzuka, Zolder following pretty closely behind, and down into the half pipe. Laguna Seca with the lead and into the corkscrew, almost getting thrown out of the track. Bathurst staying pretty close behind and into the lead as they go down the funnel, but getting stopped by the pegs. And Laguna Seca back through, Monza into second, and into the second set of pegs. Laguna Seca remains pretty unscathed, and through the V, Bathurst into the lead. And now, who will drop first? It will be Bathurst. And getting pushed around, hopefully getting pushed the right way. Getting pushed the right way indeed, but nearly rolling out of the track there. Laguna Seca and Bathurst neck and neck on separate parts of the track as they head down into the speed boost. I think Bathurst got an early got a pretty good boost there, but getting stopped by the wall. Alton Park, Zolder, Snetterton out of this one. So there will be, in fact, no Snetterton. As the chats predicted, Barcelona and Imola out as well. Laguna Seca, Bathurst, the top two as we head into the final stretch, the final tee. Not stopping Laguna Seca, but Bathurst with a lot of momentum heading down the chute, nearly getting thrown out of the track once again. So it's Laguna Seca and Bathurst with a big advantage over the rest of the field. It's looking like a two-horse race. As we head down into the speed boost, Laguna Seca gets the final speed boost and Bathurst gets shot out and off the track. So it should be pretty smooth sailing here for Laguna Seca, but getting held up at the final obstacle. Monza gets pushed through and out. Monza eliminated. Laguna Seca goes through. Nürburgring eliminated. Zandvoort eliminated. And how about that Valencia with the late dive to take the win? Wow, with Laguna Seca getting hung up, Valencia dives straight into the finish and takes the win. And with a majority of the field getting eliminated, top three, Valencia, Laguna Seca, Suzuka. There you see confirmed results. It's Valencia. Yeah, that finish was just a little bit crazy there. As oh my goodness. Studio getting thrown all over the place. There we go. We're back. And so, Valencia will be the track for the season finale. After the late overtake on Laguna Seca. It was looking like a two-horse race between Bathurst and Laguna Seca, and then Bathurst getting eliminated. Laguna Seca hung up on the final obstacle, and Valencia into the victory. That'll be fun. Nice and narrow track. Pretty short as well. Should be some good overlap there between the GT3s and the GT4s. For more multi-class action, tune in tomorrow for the iRacing. They have the GTPs and the GTDs for their season for the springtime. And then on Friday, we go to Le Mans Ultimate for the 75-minute races of the hypercars and the GT3s. Sundays, we will have the MX5 Cups, I do believe, in the iRacing going on. For going into the season finale of the ACC seasons next week. First, it's the Monday Rookies, and then the Multiclass Wednesday at Valencia. Lots of fun to be had next week. Tune in then. Stick around for the raid. We're going to raid Bo Real Racing. Doing some Le Mans Ultimate. Tell them Trackalicious sent you. Spread the love from one community to the next. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, or night. Thank you for watching. Thanks for being here. Have a good one.